Today's episode of Chat and Chew is sponsored by Be Positive Productions and Multimedia Studios, LLC. I like to think of imagination as something akin to a superpower. Used in the right context for good, it can help bolster our aspirations and propel us closer to our goals. We visualize the outcome of our accomplishments and work toward attaining said thing. However, when used to propagate untruths, reality can become distorted. We no longer know what's real and what's not. The more often we repeat something to ourselves, the more likely it is to become our truth, and the lines between perception and reality begin to blur. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a wrap. Please make sure you follow us on Facebook, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and of course, hit the bell to activate notifications that will remind you when we're on. Please be sure to leave us a comment to let us know how we're doing. We'd love to hear from you.
I want to invite you to our Father Forever Authentic Fatherhood Summit. This summit is for all fathers, new fathers, struggling fathers, our good fathers who want to be great fathers. We will take a deep dive into the purpose of fatherhood through our roundtable and panel discussion. We want to further empower you to be the best dad you can be. Also, if you know of a new father, our struggling father, invite them. If you know of a great father, invite them as well, so we can glean from their insight during our question and answer sessions. It's going to be a great summit as we share in the brotherhood of fathers. Can't wait to see you there. Welcome once again to our Chat and Chew podcast. Very super excited about our guest today. But before I get into that, I want to welcome everybody. My name is Dr. Glenn Warren, and glad you are coming to be a part of our Chat and Chew podcast today. To our Facebook fans, please go to our Facebook page. If you're on YouTube, hit that little bell. Let us know that you're watching. Please make sure that you add comments. We would love to hear your comments. So we're glad to have you, our Facebook fans and our YouTube fans. So we're going to get right into the show today. I have our guest, Mr. Jon Powell. I met Jon, how long ago?
I don't know, 10 or 12.
10 years ago. And he has a guest, one of his students he's going to introduce. So Jon, tell us about who you are, and then we'll kind of get into the broadcast.
I'm Powell. I direct the Restorative Justice Clinic at the Law School at Campbell University.
Okay.
When we started the clinic was back in 2003, so that was in Booze Creek.
Wow.
Where Campbell's located. We moved to Raleigh in 2009. The law school moved to Raleigh in 2000.
Okay.
You and I met shortly thereafter. I've been directing the clinic since its beginning in 2003.
Right.
I have one of my clinical students with me today, if it's okay. I'd like for
Yes.
My name is Dakhari Davis. I'm in my second year of law school. Last semester, I took his Restorative Justice Clinic, and this semester, I'm doing an independent study under the Restorative Justice Clinic.
Wow. I have a friend of mine that's a lawyer, and we sit down and talk about things a lot of times. And what made you decide you want to be a lawyer, Jon?
Well, it's kind of a long story, Glenn. I was kind of like you. I had a career before this, and I just, it was a leading, really a calling for me.
Okay.
Through my spiritual walk. Didn't really know why I wanted to go to law school, just got called to do that. The main driver was that I've always wanted to help people any way that I could. I've always been active in the community. Always been interested in helping everybody, but maybe especially young people.
Right. Okay.
And so at age 36, after I finished my undergrad at NC State, go Wolfpack.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. Let's talk about those Wolfpacks.
Y'all like how many in a row now? How many games?
9 in a row now.
Wow.
I got 2 more to go.
Y'all play again tonight? Is it tonight?
No, next Saturday.
Next Saturday, okay.
Yeah, Saturday and Monday we hope.
Yeah, oh, yes. That's right.
So finished my undergrad at NC State and then went immediately into law school.
Okay.
Like Dakhari, I think I was drawn to criminal defense, maybe because I've always been a fan of the uncontrolled. Maybe that's why I went to NC State to begin with.
Okay.
And became fairly frustrated as a criminal defense attorney. Just felt like I was working in a system that really is not designed to meet the needs of the people that are forced into it.
Okay.
Maybe especially the defendants, but also victims of crime.
Right.
And so I sat in the courtroom every day looking out over what I thought was a sea of pain in people, and just felt a need to do something different than that. And that's when I was introduced to restorative justice, and I knew that that was a theory of justice that was more aligned with what I wanted to do.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about restorative justice. Because my concept of what it was, I thought it was, is not really what it is.
Well, one thing that you and I talked about, Glenn, was that a lot of times people confuse rehabilitation with restorative justice.
Okay.
I do think that restorative justice is always rehabilitative. I don't think that rehabilitation is always restorative justice. It can be. So the theory of restorative justice recognizes that when crime happens, when people act out badly against other people, it's not just breaking a state law, but it's creating some sort of harm against people, relationships.
Okay.
Our justice system is really designed to understand who is the offender, what is the offense,
Right.
and what punishment do they deserve.
Okay.
And that can serve a retributive need,
Okay.
but retribution is not really the main need that people have that are either on the perpetrator side or the victim side.
Right.
And so that leaves a lot to be desired. Restorative justice is a theory that understands that people have been hurt. And so restorative practices come along to try to help people address the harm and then work together if they decide to work together to address the harm and try to come out in a better way on the other side.
Right. So the work that you and I was kind of introduced together way back when we met under a judge that was in Wake County, where we was in the child support court, and when guys were at risk of going to jail for non-child support, she would hold them in criminal contempt, but she would also send them to a program like Father Forever. That's kind of how we got introduced, you and I, and that's how we really kind of started working with fathers who are at risk of going to jail. And so what's the difference between what we do, I guess that's the rehabilitation, and restorative justice? It's not quite the same.
Well, it's not quite the same. Your guys are not sent to you because they've committed a crime per se.
Right.
They have an obligation to pay child support, and so the court can order them to do that or suffer the consequences.
Yes.
And so they were sent to you so that you could do the rehabilitative work with that,
Right.
to help them provide some sort of restoration
Right. Okay.
with former spouses or folks that they've had kids with bridges that have likely been burned between family members and friends.
Yes.
And so a lot of the work that you do does result in restoration. So I would say that you are involved in a lot of restorative work.
Okay.
But I think it probably falls under the big umbrella of rehabilitation.
Okay.
We're not dealing with crime that's hurt people. We're dealing with other things that have hurt people.
Right. Right.
And you're helping them to get on a better path, just like what we're trying to do in restorative justice work after a crime has been committed, trying to help the offenders understand how they've hurt people, trying to give victims a voice in their own case,
Right.
and then helping them to enter into a space that they can work together to address those things.
Right. Right. So our audience, what we have done over the last 15 years is guys who are at risk of going to jail, they send them to us, and we will take them to a 12-week fatherhood class where they'll complete the training. And we've had over 20 graduations over the last 15 years. And a lot of times we have actually used your facility for the graduate. We would have, 25 or 30 guys that come in that will graduate. We have the big celebration. And that's how we kind of got connected with Campbell University, and I'm glad to be a part of that. So tell me about the work that you do now on a regular basis. I was talking to you earlier, and it's fascinating how this works. where an offender and a victim of an offender and now are sitting together in the same space talking about that. What does that look like?
And that sounds crazy to a lot of people. And when we first got started a little over 20 years ago, it was kind of crazy because nobody around here was doing this work. We did have programs in other parts of the country and other parts of the world that we could learn from, and we could use those models. Okay. When we started, it was a crazy sounding idea. So we started with juveniles. Most people want to give kids another chance.
Gotcha.
And so our courts bought into that. They signed off on the local rules that we drafted to give us the ability to do this. And so we were a diversion program for the juvenile court in Harkin County. It has spread from just doing juvenile cases to actually doing murder cases and a rape case that I talked to you about a while ago. We'll talk a little bit more about that.
Okay.
At the time. So we do a pretty broad range of restorative work. We go into schools. We help kids to resolve conflict that they've had in schools so that we can address this thing that we now call the school to prison pipeline.
Okay.
And try to cut down on that, give schools a non-punitive way to deal with juvenile behavior. Keep kids in school, keep them from being suspended, keep them from being sent into the criminal legal system.
Right.
Help them to actually resolve the conflict so that it helps your educational day so that you're not dealing with conflict.
Right.
We do a lot of juvenile criminal cases. Wake County Juvenile Court sends us a lot of cases that are sent to them, some from schools, some from something that's happened in the community. And so we use the same victim-offender dialogue model that we would use in any case,
right,
to help them to resolve those things.
Okay.
We get private referrals mostly from victims who have lost a loved one to murder, who decide they want to have a conversation with the person that's responsible for that. The case that you and I talked about a while ago, that was a groundbreaking case for us and for North Carolina last year, was a case where a woman was raped over 30 years ago when she was a senior at Carolina. And she, as soon as she could leave North Carolina after graduation, she did, and she and her mother moved to Seattle, about as far away from us as she could get.
Awfully get.
But through a series of events and her learning more about what the offender was going through with his rehabilitation, sexual therapy, that sort of thing, she decided she wanted to have a conversation. So she reached out to the state of North Carolina, and they reached out to me and said, if you will do this case, we want to develop a protocol that'll make this a victim right in the state. And so that is well underway. Recently, the governor's task force on racial equity within our criminal legal system has fully endorsed victim offender dialogue across our prison system. And besides doing that case, I did 2 more cases last year that were murder cases where I was able to take victims into the prisons and do the victim offender dialogue. And then the last thing that I want to talk about, and Dakhari may talk a little bit more about this, is the work that we do within the prisons. We do a restorative process that we call circle process. I go in every Thursday evening with my law students over to Orange Correctional, and we do circle with, started out with 10 guys. 5 of them have already been transferred out to other facilities, but we still have 5 guys that we do our circle process with every Thursday evening. We also go in on Friday mornings and work with young men that are at a juvenile facility in Rocky Mount doing the same kind of thing. And Dakhari goes into a detention facility in Butler, called Dillon, and he does that work with them.
So Dakhari, what make before you get into what you do, what made you decide that you wanted to go into the law firm, number one, and to this particular law?
Well, at first I didn't know anything about restorative justice before I initially met Professor Powell when I was doing the admitted student stay at Campbell Law School. But initially I went to college doing public policy and political science, wanting to help people where I grew up in an environment where I saw a lot of people get dealt circumstances that made it almost impossible to drag themselves out of those situations.
Right.
So policy initially really attracted me, and I went to UNC Chapel Hill and did their policy program there.
Okay.
And I did some work in Congress, did some political campaigns, and I saw a lot of those sides of things, and there was a lot of great group work, like grassroots groundwork, the door, going out and talking to people. And I really liked that, but it was a lot of trying to find the right programs to help people.
Right.
And I just felt like I wanted to just be able to just do the things I wanted to do by myself, which led me to go to law school.
Okay. Wow. So what you're doing now, tell us about that.
So every Wednesday morning, I'm going into a juvenile facility in Butner, and we go and we're talking to the boys about different topics. And we'll talk about trying to get them used to understanding accountability and having conversations where we see each other's people down to an emotional level, and not the general idea that they're incarcerated individuals and we're not incarcerated individuals and we're just talking about that. Instead, we talk about different topics as people and how we can emotionally connect to one another.
Right. Are they responsive? What are some of the responses to the people you talk to?
Honestly, the biggest thing is I forget that they're children, because their responses are so much more for their age. And I mean, I've younger siblings, I've interacted with a lot of young people, but the maturity of the boys of the prison specifically, they've thought deep about a lot of these things. Their lived experiences are a lot more different. The hardships they've endured up until this point, there's just a much higher level of maturity in that aspect.
How old? What's the age range?
I think all the ones that we're with are 17.
Okay. Wow. And that's the kind of work you really, really want to do.
I really want to do juvenile work, just because I feel like a lot of the juveniles, especially like I was saying, a lot of their circumstances are so bad that sometimes it's what else can happen. So a lot of the juveniles, I feel like that's a good place where people can find different ways to move forward.
Is there inner city kids, or is a broad range of middle class, inner city?
There's definitely a mixture. Most of them are inner city kids that have gotten involved in lots of different things.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. So John, how do it feel like, as an older statesman that you are, to be able to point to the younger generation of this kind of work? And what is the transformation? What's some of the things that you would love for the next generation to do that perhaps you guys haven't had the opportunity to make the big change?
Probably seeing the humanity in all human beings.
Okay.
It's difficult, given our culture and given the punitive nature of our systems, to see the humanity in people who have committed crimes and hurt people.
Right.
One of the best places for us to see that is when we go in and do our prison work in the adult facilities, or when Dakhari and his team go in and do the work at the juvenile facilities. So I would hope that these future generations would have these kinds of experiences so that they can see every person as a human being and recognize the humanity. I'll give you a great example of that, I think.
Okay.
In the rape case that we did last year, Holly Gilmore is the lady's name who was raped.
Okay.
She reached out to the state to see if she could have a conversation with Jimmy Jones, who was her offender.
Okay.
And that's when they came to me and we got involved and did our process. On my first meeting with Holly, I said, Holly, how would you like for us to refer to Mr. Jones?
Okay.
She said, please refer to him as Mr. Jones. I refer to him as Mr. Jones. I will always refer to him as Mr. Jones. I said, that's what we'll do.
Okay.
I always refer to him as Mr. Jones when I was meeting with Holly. When I was meeting with Jimmy, I asked him how I should refer to him. He said, please call me Jimmy.
Okay.
So I called him Jimmy. When we took Holly into the prison to meet with Jimmy, I referred to him as Mr. Jones out of respect for her. In fact, she had asked me to do.
Right.
One of the things that he said when we asked him and her, what is it that you hope to accomplish by having this meeting today? He said two things. He said, I want to be able to apologize to Holly for the pain that I've caused her and her family all of her life. I know I've caused great harm, and I want to be able to apologize in a way that she'll know that I'm sincere. I also hope that Holly will begin to see my humanity through this meeting.
Wow.
So just a small example of how she began to see that. In the morning session, which was from about 9 o'clock till about 1 o'clock, she always referred to him as Mr. Jones. We came back after lunch. We sat down. She looked at me. She said, John, may I begin to refer to him as Jimmy? Wow. I said, absolutely. So that was the first time that I had seen that she was beginning to see his humanity. Further evidence of that was stories that she had told us, hardships that she had had over 30 years, that I never thought she would share with Jimmy. She shared with him.
Wow.
She shared with him that she was battling cancer. She shared with him about the death of her father. She shared some very deep things that she had instructed us not to tell him, and then she told him herself. And she will tell you, and she's done presentations, and she'll be doing another presentation that you and I talked about within the Department of Adult Corrections this month. And she will share these things, and she'll talk about how she did see his humanity. I think it's critically important that we are able to see each other's humanity. And when you can create a space that people can walk into and they can feel safe and they can begin to see each other as human beings.
Yeah.
That's when the humanity shines through. You asked a question when we first got started about how does it feel to pour into these young people?
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it. And I must tell you, Glenn, that when I said, yes, I will be the director of this program, when they asked me to be the director back in the founding days in 2003, I didn't do it because I wanted to pour into young people. I did it because I wanted to pour into my community and create a program and have something that helped people with their healing. The greatest gift to me has been students like Dakhari and so many others that have come along that I've been able to work with and get to know and pour into. And believe me, Glenn, they pour into me as well. This man is phenomenal. When I needed to think of a student to help me lead a new initiative with Wake County schools in the alternative school system, he's my guy. And so we talked about that over breakfast this morning, and he and I are going to be partnering in this effort for about the next year and a half. Man. And I'm going to be partnering with him, I hope, for the rest of my life to help him do the work that he wants to do in the community. So it's been a tremendous blessing to be able to do that.
Yeah. So audience, to set the stage, kind of on the back side of it, actually, Jon has had the contact opportunity to meet a victim of a person who got raped, and the rapist himself in the same room to talk about this ordeal and how it affected. That's phenomenal. I mean, how do you feel when you're sitting there and you're listening to those conversations? How did that make you feel as a person?
Well, it certainly makes me feel very good. And the process, Glenn, lends itself to safety, emotional safety, to be able to have this conversation. So we don't just walk people into a room and let them talk. I prepared with them for about 2 years. Wow. Individually, having individual conversations on about a monthly basis to get and sharing information to get to a point that they could walk into a room and feel safe. So when you walk in the room, you feel pretty good that this is going to be a pretty good outcome. Lawyers are never supposed to ask a question they don't know the answer to.
Yes.
We try to do that in victim offender dialogue.
Right. Yeah. I've heard that.
Sometimes you get surprised, and that's human nature.
I love to watch Law and Order. It's one of my favorite. I could sit there, like yesterday I was watching a movie. It was a series, and I used to sit watching Law and Order like 4 or 5 at a time and those, like I said, when the lawyer asks a question, most of the time they already know the answer to it already. So, and I love what you said about making people feel humanized, human. When we do our fatherhood classes, in that space where these fathers are, some of them have been abused themselves. Yeah. Some of them have been neglected themselves. Yeah. Some of them are having substance abuse issues. They got all kind of issues. They've been wrongly accused, not represented, really right by their lawyer, gone to jail where they should have got out on a probation. They're now spending 9 months, a year in jail. And when we sit down and have these conversations, and these guys go from like this, because they don't want to be there, to like this, because now they are seeing the human part of each other, and they're realizing the same thing that I'm going through, you're going to, and that creates that brotherhood of that. One of the reasons why we do this, well, a lot of times gang members, the guys are engaged. They're engaged because they're looking for that father figure. They're looking for that guidance. They're looking for that ability for somebody to affirm them.
Right.
And we try to create that kind of model within our fatherhood classes to give it, at least for that hour and a half that they're there, they begin to feel like they're welcome and they are human and they are understood.
Right.
Which is, a lot of people is like, just hear my story. And that's gotta be amazing work for lawyers. I mean, sometimes, people, I think lawyers have a misconcept about what y'all do. And sometimes, you're just, out there to get the money. All kind of theories about what lawyers do. We always do that. But the other part of it is that you guys are human too as well. You got family, you got friends. And the fact that you can bring your personality, your loving, your caring attitude to help solve a case, it's amazing.
And I try to impart that to my students, and maybe Dakhari can talk about that too.
Yeah.
And there are different methods of teaching law students. One method is you're entering a very tough profession, so you better toughen up and be tough.
Right.
I don't buy into that.
Okay.
I do tell them you're choosing a very difficult profession, but I want you to bring who you are into the profession. I want you to bring your humanity into the room. And I think when you become vulnerable, that's the quickest way for your client to become more vulnerable.
Yeah.
More human too. So maybe Dakhari can speak to who's learned.
Yeah.
But what's funny about doing the clinic is being in law school, it's obviously hard and it's tough with the classes, the studying and preparation. Honestly, the hardest thing that's been for me so far is being able to come in these environments always emotionally vulnerable and prepared to be emotionally available. Because when you're not, you're doing a disservice to your client or whoever you're speaking to. You can't fully understand their issue if you're not emotionally present throughout the whole conversation, paying attention to every body language cue, where they say the things that they keep repeating that they want you to dig into but don't want to say that they want you to dig into them. It's like all the small things are the things that have been like the hardest parts to learn so far. But doing the work with the clinic, being in the prisons and seeing how the guys open up and how emotionally intelligent they are. Like when we were the adult facility last semester, the first time I've seen a group of guys be that emotionally vulnerable with each other and have those kinds of deep conversations where they're admitting their flaws and the things that they're struggling with and able to talk to each other about that and feel comfortable doing so.
Wow. Man, what's some of the things that your personality lends to how you deal with cases, how you deal with people on a regular basis?
I think it's because I have a big family.
Okay.
All my siblings and my mom are very different. They have different cues and triggers. So I've gotten good at picking up on body language and things like that. So I think being able to be a safe space for people is something that I think is a skill that has been really helpful for me.
Right.
I naturally have going into things.
So you come from a big family.
Yeah.
So how is that going to help you in your practice of law?
Well, I can understand how different people are and how differently they might react to little things. Like if you say something and someone gets upset very quickly, that might be an indication that there's something that they're struggling with or have dealt with that is important for you to know when you're interacting with them.
Right. So you'll be able to tap into that. Wow. What are some of the things that, y'all have been doing this for a short while, what are some of the things that you would love to change in practice of law?
I think I agree with Professor Powell. I think it's seeing everyone's humility.
Right. Okay.
And seeing that everyone's a human being.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So, John, I think we might just cut my hour with my team, and she tell us we need to wrap it up. But I really, from a father to a son, so to speak, from an older generation to a younger generation, what is some of the things that you really, like, beside the human part of, want them to experience and really give as when they give into their clients, to their staff?
Maybe a good way for me to answer that is talk about some of the guidelines that we adopt when we sit and do our circle process.
Okay.
One is to honor the talking piece that we use, and what that means is to honor the person that's speaking and give them your full attention. Another one that we adopt is listen to understand, not to respond.
Gotcha.
So when we're sitting in conversation, listen to understand the person that's talking to you. Don't be judging the person and jump into how can I fix you. We talk about time management all the time, and one thing we talk about is take the time that you need when you have the talking piece, but remember that everybody else in the circle needs to have time.
That time too. Wow.
And then we talk about confidentiality. Dakhari's story is not my story to tell when we leave this room. So honor him by keeping what he has to say confidential within the circle.
Right.
Unless he tells me that I can share his story.
Right.
Don't share other people's story outside.
Okay.
So I would hope that people could honor those guidelines in their everyday living.
Right. So what are some of the final words you want to tell our audience?
Well, Glenn, being your friend for 10 or 12 years now has been a great blessing to me. Seeing the work that you have started and that you continue to do. You and I are about the same age.
Yeah.
And a lot of people would say, when are you going to retire? I've never heard you talk about retirement, and you haven't heard me talk about retirement.
Exactly.
I want to invest whatever I have for as long as I can into trying to make the world a better place. I was doing a talk over at North Carolina Central one time, and one of the slogans that I heard them say was improving the human condition. Everything that we do, we're trying to improve the human condition. I have a lot of privilege, Glenn, to be able to do that. So I try to give out of that privilege to try to improve the human condition. I know that that's what you do every day too.
Yes.
I hear Dakhari talk about what he wants to do with his legal career and with himself. And he wants to give of himself to improve the human condition wherever he is. And I have a lot of confidence that at least the three of us are going to continue to do that for him.
Yes, sir. Great. Dakhari, I'll let you have the last word. What would you like to tell your audience?
I think to the older generation that younger generation is a bunch of fighters, and to the young generation, keep fighting, and I think we all can improve our human condition.
Right. And that we need one another, that we need each other. You know, the young guys, y'all full of energy and fight, and it's good. But sometimes you need the wisdom of the older. And the older, we have the wisdom, but we don't want to change sometimes. That's the way things are, the way we've done them for the last 40 years, we're going to continue to do them. Well, we need to be able to say, you know what, let me step back and let me, be a coach, and not necessarily tell them necessarily how to do it, or let them do it from their perspective, their angle. Great. Glad to have you here, Jon.
Thank you, Glenn.
Dakhari, so glad to have you. And to our audience, I thank you again, once again, for chiming in. And again, go to our Facebook page and watch us every Thursday night at 8:00 p.m. Also, go to our YouTube, like us, share us, and we'll see you again next time. Take care.
Here's 3 ways you can support our Dads at a Distance initiative. Give a copy to a family member, our friend. Donate monthly, a book monthly, 5 books monthly, how many books you want to do monthly donation. Reverse book signing, your church, your business. You can make a donation go to our website at www.afatherforever.com and go to our PayPal at Fathers Forever. Our Cash App is $Fathers Forever. Make your donation today. Please include in the note section, include DAAD. Again, include in the note section DAAD.
If you or someone you know would like to be a part of the show, please visit our website at www.afatherforever.com or call us at 919-779-9905. The Chat and Chew podcast streams Thursdays at 8 p.m. on YouTube and Facebook. To schedule a reverse book signing or to find out more information about how you can become a part of the programs you've heard us mention today, please be sure to stop by our website as well.
Hello, everyone. This is Glenn Warren, founder and executive director of Fathers Forever. I want to share an alarming reality with you. 627,000 fathers are incarcerated that have kids under 18. Now, there are 56,000 moms incarcerated who have kids under 18. The reality is there are so many more fathers incarcerated than moms. This is why I Am a Father Forever book exists. Now, I need your help. I am inviting you to help us get this book into as many fathers incarcerated as possible. Here's how it works. For your donation of $22, we will provide a book to an incarcerated father. Thank you in advance for helping Fathers Forever heal fathers and save families. I want to invite you to our Father Forever Authentic Fatherhood Summit. This summit is for all fathers, new fathers, struggling fathers, our good fathers who want to be great fathers. We will take a deep dive into the purpose of fatherhood through our roundtable and panel discussion. We want to further empower you to be the best dad you can be. Also, if you know of a new father, or struggling father, invite them. If you know of a great father, invite them as well, so we can glean from their insight during our question and answer sessions. It's going to be a great summit as we share in the brotherhood of fathers. Can't wait to see you there.